Today we're going to be looking at NBA busts that everyone seems to forget about. When a player is drafted first overall and their career goes terribly, they get hate and made fun of for the rest of time. But when it's a player drafted nearly just as high and they turn into a bust, for some reason they seem to get a pass and people don't care as much when they don't turn out as expected. Which doesn't make a ton of sense, so we're here to make it right. We're going to look at all the draft busts within the top 5 picks from each year over the past 10 years, and really expose what was expected of them coming into the league compared to what we actually got. We're going to skip the last couple of years because it's too soon to judge, so we're going to start with 2020. Now, since that year's draft, Anthony Edwards has looked like a future superstar in the NBA, while James Wiseman was drafted just 1 pick later and couldn't.
What do y'all think is the amount of seasons where you're like, okay, I've given you enough time? I think for me that number is 4. That number is 4. If I don't see anything by season 4, I'm really questioning you. And if I see a glimpse, I'll give you another season. By year 5, I think I just know who you are by year 5. 6 seasons is a lot. 6 seasons is a lot. And there's going to be a lot of anomalies. You know what I'm saying? Like Kyle Lowry is the number 1 player that comes up in my head in terms of late bloomers in the league. But 4 seasons with real opportunity. Okay, I think that's a better criteria. It's a better criteria. Akeem, the BSOLZ, I see you're still stealing Chill's take. Wait, what? How am I stealing Chill's take? What did I do?
Have looked like any more of an opposite. The truth is, even though he showed future potential, Wiseman was drafted way too soon and was clearly not experienced enough to come into the league, which is why he was sent to the G League multiple
what? What has he been saying?
Times in his first few seasons, then got basically traded for a former 2nd round pick. And it's still early into his career, but if things keep up at this pace, they aren't gonna look good for him. In that same year's draft, Patrick Williams was taken 4th overall, and so far in his first 3 years...
Oh my god. Listen, I'm trying to watch this fucking video. But Chill did not invent the after 5 years, we know who you are take, dog. Jesus Christ, bro. God damn, that's meat suck. That's meat. Hey, shout out to Chill, because I fuck with Chill heavy. But that's meat suck, bro. That is not a Chill original. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
Alright. Not much has changed in his game so far, and he's been an average player in the league at best.
Yeah, that's a YouTube chat thing,
He'll be an okay role player going forward for his career. But speaking of average, Isaac Okoro was the 5th pick that year. And over the past 3 seasons, all we've seen from him is his role get diminished on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's really got
Isaac Okoro hasn't really done anything.
Early on into his career, it hasn't been a great sign. Don't let the fact that he was taken 5th discourage you from considering this man a flop, because top 5 is still very valuable spot in the league. Also very valuable is the sponsor of today's video, Brilliant.
But I think though, when Isaac Okoro got drafted, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I deadass didn't really know about Isaac Okoro going into that draft. That was one of those drafts where, hey, after Wiseman, LaMelo, and Ant got drafted, I truly didn't care. Did Isaac Okoro have star expectations going into that draft? Or was it okay, we're just picking up another role player that fits in with our system type of pick? Because if that's the case, I wouldn't count that as a bust. I think that's a little bit too much of a stretch to call Isaac Okoro a bust. But Okoro isn't bad. It's just that bro is not the main piece on the Cavs. No, but he was drafted before Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, hey, if we had to redraft that draft, Tyrese at this point might go number 1. At this point. I'd probably still go Ant. But he's probably a strong 2. So, hey.
Backwards to 2019, people haven't been thrilled with RJ Barrett's development, and while he hasn't necessarily met all expectations, I wouldn't consider him a bust by any means. But a player like DeAndre Hunter isn't so lucky, because this man was supposed to be the Atlanta Hawks 3-and-D guy. He had a lot of hype when getting drafted 4th, and was always talked about as having elite defense. Well, so far...
Bro, I remember this draft. A lot of people gave, I think myself too, gave the Atlanta Hawks a really big W for this draft because of the fact that not only did they get DeAndre Hunter, but they also got Isaac Okoro. The most recent comparison to it was how in this past season's draft, the Rockets were able to pull off Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore. That's the type of timing people were talking about with how good the Hawks draft was. Now, Amen not looking too good as well. It's due to injuries and opportunity, and that's fine. But yeah, for those who weren't watching the NBA back then, I think that's the more recent parallel to it. So
4 years of his career, Hunter's been forgettable at best. He hasn't had a single season where he's shown major improvements or even stood out. And sooner or later, we're gonna have to give up hope that it'll happen. I think as a top 5 pick, DeAndre Hunter can definitely...
Did I say Isaac Okoro? Did I say Isaac Okoro? My bad. I just know they drafted Jarrett Culver and DeAndre Hunter this draft. If I said the wrong thing, my bad. Oh, did I say DeAndre Hunter and Isaac Okoro? My bad. My bad. I meant to say DeAndre Hunter and Jarrett Culver. Was it this draft? Wait, now I'm bugging. I just remember there was one Hawks draft where they got 2 like really good players. DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. When was the draft they got Jarrett Culver? Did they get Jarrett Culver? Am I tripping? Jarrett Culver went to Minnesota, right? The next season. Oh, I'm bugging. T-Wolves did. Wait, what? Why did I think they got DeAndre Hunter and Jarrett Culver? What the fuck? All right, anyways. God, that was a crazy brain fart. What I meant was... Yeah, casual. Hey, spam casual in chat. At this point. But yeah, what I meant was, I remember during this time, there was a lot of hype with the Hawks getting Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter. Like, oh shit. They got 2 crazy wings in the draft that people slept on and slipped. And I think the closest parallel to that was his last season, this last draft when the Rockets got Amen Thompson, and then Cam Whitmore slid to 20 and they got Cam Whitmore. Hopefully Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore don't end up being these 2 guys, and they actually reach their potential. But yeah,
be considered a bust, and he shouldn't be let off the hook for it. As for the 2018 draft, it also gave us one player in the top 5 that should be considered a bust, and it's a bad one. Well, that is unless you're counting DeAndre Ayton as one, but I wouldn't. Ayton had no business going first overall in hindsight, and he's definitely not one of the greatest first overall picks drafted, but at this point, he's by no means a bust. The real bust from that draft is obviously Marvin Bagley III. The entire year leading up to the draft, he was talked about with the possibility of being able to go first overall, which would have been terrible. But just because he went second doesn't mean he deserves a pass. The only thing people really remember from this draft, though, is the fact that the Kings drafted Marvin over Luka. But either way you look at it, whether
Marvin Bagley was such a weird prospect to me. Because I when I see draft prospects, I always try to see what the vision is. Like, maybe there's questions about, is this player going to reach that vision? But I never really saw the vision with Marvin Bagley. Like, if Marvin Bagley reaches potential, what type of player is that? What is the mold of that player? And I just don't see it. I never saw it with Marvin Bagley. I tried to see it at Duke, but he was just a forward. He was just another forward to me. I don't know.
Bagley was selected second,
DeMarcus
third,
Cousins?
fourth, fifth, it would have been bad. I mean, his comparison coming into the league was a cross between Chris Bosh and Amari Stoudemire. Well, it's been 5 years, and I'd say so far he's been a cross between...
I mean, I guess Chris Bosh and Amari Stoudemire. I guess.
Current day Udonis Haslem and Tyler Hansborough. I mean, it's
wow.
year 5, and he's never really had a role as a full-time starter, can't shoot threes, isn't a great rebounder, not a good defender, and really can't stay healthy. So he'll definitely go down as one of the worst second overall picks ever drafted. During the 2017 draft, as it turns out, Lonzo Ball has turned into a bust, seeing that his career is pretty much over due to injuries, but that's not his fault. On the other hand, Josh Jackson was taken with the 4th pick that year, and it's hilarious to look back and seeing his draft day comparison being a cross between Kawhi Leonard and Jimmy Butler due to his verse.
Yeah, these are my confessions. I was Team Josh Jackson going into that draft, man. I was Team Josh Jackson going into that draft. Man, for those who remember the 2017 draft, it was essentially... The first 3 picks was Philly, Los Angeles, Boston. Lonzo was LA's guy for so many fucking reasons. It was a match made in heaven. Why did I do this? That's crazy. Markelle was the unanimous number 1 overall pick. People tend to forget that, and some people are trying to revise history. Man, I always thought Jason Tatum was better than Markelle anyways. Okay, buddy. That's a select few. Unanimous number 1 overall draft pick going into that draft. I remember that. But that 3 to 6 slot, that's when it became a little iffy. For the Celtics specifically, because we were looking for a wing, the conversation was around Josh Jackson and Jason Tatum. And I personally was a Team Josh Jackson guy. I really thought he was going to be the next Kawhi Leonard, man. Really thought he was going to be the next Kawhi Leonard. Like, his game didn't look flashy, but Kawhi's game didn't look flashy as well. Jason Tatum, he looked skinny as fuck coming out of Duke. He looked like he was going to be one of those defensive liability type of players that can get you a bucket but couldn't really pass. So I was like, okay, he might have a better bag than Josh Jackson, but Josh Jackson, better bag doesn't mean you're a better player. And defensively, Josh Jackson's upside is higher. But nah, that was definitely one of my worst predictions ever. So...
versatility on both sides of the ball, even though he couldn't shoot to save his life. Guard forwards just can't come into the league anymore relying on being super athletic and not being able to shoot, and Jackson's the prime example. Things did start out well for Josh when he made the all-rookie second team, but from there...
You know what's crazy? I thought Jason Tatum was going to be Kevin Knox. Like, in hindsight, that was the player I thought Jason Tatum was going to be. Kevin Knox. God, I was wrong.
It's been completely downhill, and his lack of improvement over the next 5 seasons have been the biggest
It was bad,
contributor to
man.
him not even being able to make an NBA or G League roster anymore at only 26 years old. Going back to the 2016 draft, things were pretty rough. The first overall pick that night was Ben Simmons, and he's obviously now turned into a bust, but we know that. Out of the 4 other top 5 picks, Dragon Bender was easily one of the worst, and due to the fact that he was a 7-foot-tall overseas big man that could shoot, he obviously had hopes to be the next Dirk Nowitzki.
Yo, Dragan Bender ruined the perception of European players for a quick second. Deadass. Dragan Bender single-handedly ruined the reputation of overseas players for a quick second. I was also one of them, and I ain't gonna lie. I had some bad takes back then. I did. It is what it is. Because KP came in the 2015 draft, right? KP came in the 2015 draft, and people were like, oh, KP's that guy. Porzingis is that guy. Where's the next KP out there? And then Dragan Bender came into the league and busted like crazy. Pause. And for the next couple of years, whenever there was a European draft prospect that was coming into the league, people were not optimistic about trying to find the next Kristaps Porzingis anymore. They were just worried they were just worried they were gonna pick the next Dragan Bender. They're like, oh, I don't want to pick the next Dragan Bender. Like, what if he turns out to be the next Dragan Bender? You know, like, nah, that was a crazy time period.
Was actually
raise xenophobia in the NBA community.
But clearly those hopes of being Dirk Nowitzki fooled the Phoenix Suns, because it was clear almost immediately once he stepped onto an NBA floor that Dragan Bender couldn't play at that level. He never averaged double digits in the league and shot 32% from 3 over his career, which only lasted 4 seasons, and was completely done by the age of 22. While on the other hand, Chris Dunn getting taken 5th overall that night was pretty questionable, and has since proved to not be worth it.
Hey man,
still in the NBA. He was supposed to be a two-way
next
guard
Chris Paul,
but he's turned into a guy that's
next
5 different NBA teams so far.
If you know, you know. Next Chris Paul, y'all.
Third backup point guard on any team he's on.
Next John Wall.
2015 NBA draft, we have 2 more players picked in the top 5 that were definitely busts. Jahlil Okafor was a guy that was considered in some mock drafts as first or second overall at 6 foot.
I think, you know, the problem with Jahlil, man, I think he was just drafted in the wrong era. Jahlil is a slow-footed, post-up big, and he even showed, like, in his, I think his first season, he averaged like 18 points a game. Let me look it up. Jahlil Okafor in his first season averaged 18 points a game, right? Next season, his minutes went down. But he literally just got drafted in the wrong season. The wrong season. Because 2015, 2016 was when the three-point boom really started, at least in my opinion. And when slow-footed bigs who cannot shoot got phased out the league, specifically in that season. And Jahlil Okafor just got fucked. He just got fucked. But if he was drafted in 04, hey, 3 blanks, that's what I'm saying. If he was drafted in 04, in 03, I think Jahlil would have been an Elton Brand type of player. You know what I'm saying? I think Jahlil Okafor would have had the same career that Al Jefferson had. You know? But it is what it is, man. It is what it is.
270 pounds, he was thought to have enough potential to be one of the league's next dominant big men. Coming out of high school, he was even the #1 overall recruit in the country. While he found out extremely quickly that his game was outdated and wouldn't be transitioning into the NBA. He came in right as the NBA was getting over the phase of the traditional big man, which is why he averaged 17 and 7 in year 1, to getting his minutes cut in year 2, then traded in his 3rd year to the Nets, to which he would never recover.
That's an interesting take. Easy MB in chat said, I think he'd even be better today than back then. And I do think that's interesting. If he was just, if he was born literally 5 years later and he had more of a sample size that like, yo, I need to improve and work on my shooting, right? I need to work on my passing. I think Jahlil had enough skill on his game to actually work on that shit. So that is interesting. And with Jokic, you see Jokic operating outside in the post all the time. You see Joel Embiid doing the exact same thing. Bam Adebayo being that hub at the top of the key. I think these are things that Jahlil Okafor, if he was just born 5 years later, would have seen. I think the people who were training him also would have seen the same thing, and his skill set would be completely different in today's game than it was in 2015. Jahlil Okafor just got fucked in terms of the year he was drafted. That's literally it.
They traded him, it was the beginning of the end, and he never really started on a
That's
team
tough.
again. The Pistons waived him in 2021, and he's been playing overseas ever since. The fact that Jahlil was limited down low and had no shot at all outside of the paint was what cost him his career. I don't blame him a ton though, he just came up in the league at the worst time possible for a center. Mario Hezonja is a forgotten player that was drafted 5th that night in 2015, and his game from overseas never translated at all. He came in, played like a role player, bounced around a couple teams, then
Okay, I just want to clarify. I'm not saying Jahlil Okafor would be a star. I'm not saying that. I'm not even saying he's going to be an all-star. But, like, what Sengun was last year, but, like, a notch down. Just a notch down. What Sengun was last year, not this year. Because Sengun this year is on a different type of timing. What Sengun was last year, but a notch down, I think that's what Jahlil Okafor could have been if he was drafted in today's league. And I think that player is a better player than what Jahlil Okafor ended up being. So
very quickly was out of the NBA. One of the main inspirations
bum
for
is
this video
crazy.
came from the 2014 NBA draft in Jabari Parker. Because going into draft night that year, it was really a 50-50 toss-up on who was going to go first overall. Would it be Jabari Parker or Andrew Wiggins? And we didn't know until Wiggins' name got called that he was actually going to be the one.
I need the real ball knowers in the chat to tell me what the comparison was with these two going into that draft. Why these two were the clear 1 and 2. I need to see answers in chat what the comparison was, man. Cause this draft was crazy, bro. This draft was crazy, bro. Yeah, okay. I see the real ball knowers in chat. Yeah, people were talking about this 2014 draft like it was the next coming of that 03 draft. And so for me, I don't know if it was just my timeline, I was seeing more LeBron comparisons with Andrew Wiggins and Kobe because of like the athleticism part. The extreme athlete that LeBron was, that's who Andrew Wiggins was. Obviously wasn't the passer that LeBron was, but this idea of the extreme athlete score, can defend multiple positions. I saw those comparisons with Andrew Wiggins. With Jabari Parker, Carmelo Anthony. And then Joel Embiid, he got Akeem comparisons. Marcus Smart. Y'all want the truth or do y'all want me to lie to y'all? Marcus Smart's comparisons was... I don't even know, man. Let's just say people saw a scoring guard in college that had two-way potential. Hey, man. Hey, that's all I gotta say on that.
One to go first. So even though Jabari could have just
That's what I remember.
First, he doesn't catch nearly as much backlash for being a complete bust. I mean, when Wiggins was playing bad on the Timberwolves, everyone was making fun of him for not working out. But at the same time, you had Jabari Parker over here struggling to even stay on one team for a full season and just flying under the radar.
Like, yeah, it was like Gary Payton. Gary Payton would have flashed a D Wade on the scoring side. Like,
things would be much worse.
Whoa.
No, honestly, Parker was drafted by Milwaukee, and the plan for him was to be their franchise guy until Giannis came in and took over at the same position. But even then, it was said that Jabari's game was too much like Carmelo Anthony's, and aside from some good rebounding and scoring, the rest of his game was limited. He really couldn't shoot the ball well from three, wasn't a great team player, and that's why he bounced around to 6 different teams in a 4-year span.
With a flash of D-Wade.
Is now completely out of the NBA. For a second overall pick that had all the hype that he did, his career went terribly. Dante Exum's another guy that should have...
He did suffer through injuries. Yeah, because Jabari Parker, whatever Chris Middleton ended up being, that was supposed to be Jabari Parker's role. When Jabari was averaging 20 this season right here, in 2017, Giannis was on the come-up this season. I think Giannis won MIP this season. Yeah, Giannis was 22 years old, coming into himself, 23, 9 and 5, 2 blocks, 1.6 steals. Giannis was coming into himself. Jabari was starting to heat up. Hey, Chris Middleton was also there. The original big three for the Bucks chat was supposed to be Chris Middleton, Jabari Parker, and Giannis. And then Malcolm Brogdon was supposed to be their sixth man. Because I think he won Rookie of the Year this season as well. This was supposed to be the crew, man. And then I think Jabari Parker ended up missing a lot of games the next season due to injury. Yeah, he played 31. Chris Middleton stepped the fuck up to a 20-point-per-game scorer. Eric Bledsoe came onto the scene. Malcolm Brogdon was still Malcolm Brogdon. Giannis kept on ascending. And then by 2019, Jabari Parker was just out the picture. We found our formula. You know what I'm saying? Chris Middleton is R2. Giannis is R1. Brook Lopez is our starting center. Yeah, they just figured it out. They just figured it out right here. Like, what are they gonna do? Run Chris Middleton at the 2? They could have, low-key, but...
Never been drafted where he was in 2014. And he also shouldn't have had a draft day comparison to Penny Hardaway. He never even became a starter and just didn't show up to the NBA bringing much of anything special. As a 6'6" point guard, you expect super athleticism.
Hey, that's Euro Kobe. I remember that.
Well, Dante
Euro
shot 40%
Kobe, y'all.
from the field, 30% from 3, and averaged 2 assists a game. So he was clearly never that. Now, going back to the year 2013, it turned out to be one of the worst lottery-picked drafts in league history, based on expectations. Of course, we know Anthony Bennett went
Ben
first overall
McLemore
this year, and he gets as much bad publicity.
Ben McLemore got to be the pick for this one, man.
But the 3rd, 4th, and 5th picks that night turned out terribly. I mean, honestly, the 2nd overall pick has 2, thanks to all of Victor Oladipo's injuries. But again, we'll give him a slight pass because it was injuries, and he did play good when healthy. But the other 3 picks that night were all expected to be stars in the league. Well, taken 3rd was Otto Porter Jr., and he was thought to be a 3-and-D specialist, and kind of like a Mikal Bridges type player is today, which is why the Wizards once gave...
To the hell, I thought Ben was gonna be... I thought Ben was gonna be nice too. The way draft NBA pundits were talking about Ben McLemore going into that draft, they were like, I ain't gonna lie, if we're talking about the best scorer in this draft, if we're talking about pure scoring, dude who's gonna average 20 points a game, Ben McLemore's that dude. Ben McLemore is Ray Allen with more hops. Like a young Ray Allen with more hops. I'm like, whoa. Do y'all know what young Ray Allen was? Like, that's a crazy comp. Yeah, no nose Curry in on the YouTube side. Yeah, Ben McLemore is getting Ray Allen comps. And that's crazy.
One of the worst max contracts of all time. But he never ended up being great and instead has just been an okay 3-and-D player off the bench for any team he's on. Drafted with the next pick that night was Cody Zeller, who had pretty big expectations and was even compared to LaMarcus Aldridge. But Zeller was anything but that.
Never saw it with Zeller.
Part-time starter for
Never saw it with
years.
Zeller.
He hasn't been anything special and has pretty much been the prototypical average big man in the NBA ever since joining 10 years ago. Then taken 5th overall was another big man in Alex Len, who had a very similar story to Cody, but has been slightly worse. He's been the biggest example of a generic backup big man, and I'm kind of surprised his
never saw what
so
Alex
long.
Len too,
Now,
dog.
these are all the players over the past 10 years.
Never saw what Alex Len, but the way they were talking about Alex Len, whatever Jokic is right now, I swear to God, that's how they were talking about Alex Len, dog. No cap. And he was supposed to come on my podcast back in like 2017. Dubbed me. It's cool though. It's cool. It's cool.
Big man, and I'm kind of surprised his career's lasted so long. Now these are all the players over the past 10 years that are actually major NBA draft busts but don't get talked about as much. So maybe next time you're discussing busts in the league, don't forget to mention some of these names.
Shout out to Austin Sweat for the video, man. Trip down memory lane real quick.